Yeah, mate.
So good.
Yeah, so here we are with the Moog One, obviously. And I think what we're going to talk about is sort of sound design. Like, we've done a bunch of videos, obviously, playing with Jack going completely, like, off his nut on this thing. Because this is obviously there is an awesome selection of presets, and I've sort of been curating my own little, like, list of incredible stuff.
Imagine it's difficult not to just take forever looking at all of them at once.
Genuinely, it's like, there's so many good sounds, and they really show off the, like, power of the synth. But I think what we're going to do is kind of do a bit of a sound design thing here. We're going to just actually, like, put together some sounds, just mess around, just explore the sort of sound design possibility.
Totally.
What's your sort of knowledge level on this? Are you kind of like...
So it's pretty surface level, not having dug in and actually...
Tried
to do something on, actually, how do I... Oh, yeah, it can.
Yeah, okay.
I think Jack was interested to hear my sort of opinions on it and thoughts as well. I think, for me, when it was first announced and you see, the crazy specs, price, all the hype and stuff, because I'd never heard a Moog polysynth before, I couldn't get out of my head like, it's just sub-37s and lots of them all at once, but it's so much more.
Yeah.
It's like that little intro jam, there's all those kind of what I'd normally go to a digital synth for, and be like, I want those digital kind of pads and things.
Where it does impossible stuff.
Yeah,
like
and then there's that extra juicy depth in kind of this organic squishiness that's just it's
like
incredible.
Analog filters are really hard to model, I think, is the thing, and it's like definitely like the depth, which part of it is the effects as well. Like, and I don't think it's fair to like remove the effects from like the instrument. People say, just play it without the effects.
Naked filter suites.
Like, I only want naked filter suites. I'm like, that's not how that's not how I interact with. That's not. I love it when a synth has got effects because they become part of the sound. You know, when you've got like a... But that's got like effects in to help widen and build out the sound. It becomes part of it. And there are amazing effects in this. There's obviously like Eventide master effects. We all know about that. Yes. But like, actually, I want to shout out the inbuilt effects, which are not the Eventide things as well. Like
house brand.
The house brand or house brand effects, they sound really good. They're really vibey, and we should use those. But to start with, like to get an init preset, there's a little shortcut. If you press Shift and Compare, and then you just get an initialized sound. And obviously all the knobs are in the wrong places, but if you just touch the knob, they pick up. You can change the pickup behavior as So what's happening here is we've got one oscillator and it's being fed into the ladder filter. So you've got, just to give you an overview, 3 oscillators, a mixer section. We've got like stuff we can do to like create modulation on the oscillators in these sections, and we can bring them in with the mixer. We can bring in the ring mod as well into the mixer here, and you can bring in external stuff too. You can obviously plug external synths into it. Plus you've got some noise. And what you do is with these little buttons, you choose which of the filters it's going to. So to the ladder or to the state variable, which is a different characteristic, different type of filter. And you can do one or the other, or you can do both at the same time and do different things with the filter.
You've got your series and parallel thing over there spotted.
So that you can actually, when the series and parallel here, interestingly, because you can run the filters in series or parallel, but is designed because it's not obvious this, but the state variable filter is actually comprised of 2 different filters. It has its own spacing control because you can shift their little peaks apart. So in a weird way, you've got 3 filters because you've got a state variable with 2 peaks, and then you've got a ladder, and that means that you can get really kind of vowel-y stuff. We should definitely like try and so mainly. Let me just quickly play you the filters. So it's. you know, here's oscillator 1, and that's the state variable. Wow. And then if we go down lower. Wow.
A little nasal something.
That just sounds like badass. And obviously it's a different vibe to the ladder. So, by the way, this mix control controls how much of one or the other we have. That's how you would do series, because you would go state variable into the ladder, basically, and then, anyway, but I'll just play this. So this is the ladder. So do this. So it's a different kind of sound, a bit more sort of, be louder then. But really picks out harmonics.
Yeah, totally.
That like Moogie, that's the Moogie thing. And as I say, you can do to both. Or what would be cooler is let's send oscillator 1 to the ladder, and then let's send oscillator 2 to the state variable. So if I move the mix control, now we're just hearing oscillator 2. You've got an octave control, move up and down. Very like obvious, if you've got a Voyager, you would know that. You've got a frequency, so you can detune it. Then you've got beat frequency, which is like a super fine tune. Exactly. And Minotaur, like the Taurus, had the kind of beat frequency. So it's like, you know, coarse, super coarse, finer in a way. But the mad thing about the oscillators is that they have this kind of wave shaping vibe. So if I bring this up, okay. So what I'll do is I'm now hearing just oscillator 2. I can freely sort of morph the wave shapes like this and go to a square and back to a saw. But you can also change the wave angle, which is a weird sort of name. In the saw, it kind of sounds like a filter. And if you change this to triangle, it's freely, you can see what it's doing. It's freely turning it from a downward saw into a triangle, then into a ramp. Weirdly, it's a bit, reminds me of the MS-20's modulation. Like, you know, the way the mod works, where it's like a freely changeable, but that applied to, you know, very, very high fidelity to an analog oscillator. So you've got these shapeable things, but you can always blend it with the square to a degree. So
all about the little graphics in there. It's great.
It's nice, isn't it? So then you've got, think about it, you've got wave angle as the modulation for this kind of triangle or saw. So we have a thing we can do there. And then when you go over to the pulse width, you can modulate pulse width. And then because you can mix, then you've effectively got these two different controls can be modulated at the same time with blends of each other, and you've got 3 oscillators. So they're like, oh my God, like suddenly there's a ton of like animation that can be applied at the oscillator level before you even get into animating filters. And then the other thing you can do is you can layer up these synths. It's 3-part multi-timbral, and all you do is you just push the button, and now I'm looking at the second part, now I'm looking at the third part, or I can smush the buttons down and have any combination so that one control edits 2 layers. So that's how you start layering sound. So you've got all this control for one voice, and you just keep layering it up.
Still no menu type.
Yeah, it's like, but the interesting thing is there are menus, but they're only there if you want to go deeper. And if you push these little triangles, now you get into like the hardcore sort of details. But there is some super cool stuff in here. Like, for example, with the oscillators, you can adjust the pitch tracking of each oscillator so that the oscillators can be made to be out of tune very slightly with each other, which is like, for me personally, I love the idea of like woozy polysynths. So maybe let's like build up a sort of slightly more like a classic kind of polysynth sound, and I'll do some like woozy action. So now we've got 2 oscillators. And then I'll come in here and I'll adjust the pitch tracking, 101%, 98%. Interestingly, those coarse controls make quite a difference to the tone. If you hold shift, you can really fine tune it. So you can say, oh, I want 99.9% pitch tracking. and let's say 101.1 or 2.
Is that one of those ones where like you press the same key a bunch of times and it will sort of shift it around a bit, or is it just because it's kind of cycling in?
How do you mean? As in,
it's probably a terrible explanation. So let's say for the pitch tracking, is it something that varies over time, or it's just offsetting it? It's
offsetting the whole curve. Like, so imagine the entire curve of the keyboard is like wonked slightly.
Gotcha.
There is a master overall slop control, which is here pitch variance. So you can make the entire synth go woozy as well.
Yeah.
Like my very out of tune Moog One, more like my memory Moog that's not been serviced in like 25 years. But I like that what you're talking about, that like little bit of wooziness. I'm like so massively all about. So then we've got envelopes for dedicated filter and amplifier. So I'm gonna get a long sound. Why do you have 16 notes if not to?
Oh my god.
And maybe more variants. And you're hearing that wooziness, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like it's super subtle, but like the ear hears. Like you can, like we're very, we've all got quite good hearing, but I think we're all sort of, you can just hear. It just sounds alive, and that's like, especially with things like the CS80. If you ever played on one of those, like,
I wish I had.
Man, like that is. Absolute, like it did not, like having played on one does not disappoint. But I think what is imparting so much of the spooky character is the fact that it is ever so slightly out of tune. So it's slightly microtonal, and you can do that with this as well. So you can have multiple layers very easily, because the CS80 is a 2-layered synth. So you can easily flip between the two with wooziness to build like these like otherworldly kind of sounds that just catch the ear in such a strange way.
It's just those smallest amounts of like the pitch variance, the overall like the tracking and stuff. Just the tiniest bits make it incredible.
And then let's get the filter to bite more. So I want the filter envelope to affect the filter. It's not really doing that right now. So down here we have, and we should talk about these as well, because it's a similar idea.
And more like the modulations that you're gonna want to grab
Exactly
off,
right.
Aren't they?
These are like hardwired modulations, because they obviously just know, I'm just going to want to do that. So like, give me a knob so I don't have to apply modulation. And we'll talk about applying modulation as well, because that's amazing. But if you see here, it says cutoff modulation, EG amount, positive and negative. Nice. And what I do is I pick which filter I want this little block to affect. And because we're using the state variable, let's do this. So if I do that, now the filter...
Quickly, just based on how intuitive and obvious the rest of the synth has been, if you want to just do both filters at the same time, can you just press both?
Of course, yes,
Perfect.
You can push the buttons.
Yes,
The other thing is you can link the cutoffs of the filters, because especially if you're doing like vowel synthesis, you'll set up a certain relationship with like, ladder here, state variable there, just so, and then depending on where the filters are, will create different vowel sounds. So if you link cutoffs, then they stay locked together, so the relationship that you've created is maintained.
Actually, one thing I like to try is getting something I do with Belgrade, the filter, is the sort of spreading them symmetrically.
Yeah. So you get that total, like the vowel thing, well, definitely.
Awesome.
And I can... You get some of the arpeggiator on the go, just to like...
Adding to the wonkiness.
Yeah. A whole semitone out just for you. I like you can hear that wooziness. It's like. So we've got like a bit of filter action. Wow. It really does that kind of wow sound, like, which is different to the ladder. We do have different filter modes. We should mess with them. That's bandpass. Sounds great. Like, pow. Really like that.
If you've got two filters, one thing I really like doing is getting, imagine that just naked, super sorry type sound, shaving off just a smidge of the top end so it's not super harsh, and then having like a bandpass squishing around in the middle.
Like just to pick things out. Like, yeah, that's like totally. Like, for example, you could just go ladder, ladder, ladder. So that's kind of what we're doing there. So now what I've done is I'm feeding the sounds into both filters. The state variable is doing a bandpass thing that we can, like, you know, move and sweep around. But there's a low end fullness from the ladder, which is just. Yeah, that sort of thing. But we should talk about modulation and how you modulate things, because, you know, I don't know about you, but like other synths that have modulation matrices, it's one of it's one of those things that, like, on paper is like, not being mean, because I mean, don't get me wrong, I love every synth. Every synth has, you know, a heart to be loved, but just because it's there doesn't mean it's easy to use or fun.
Totally.
Exactly. So the way that you apply modulation on the One is like this. So that triangle where I was messing with the oscillators is called more. It means that for any section of the synth you get kind of more, but there's also a little square which means destination.
Nice.
So pretty obvious what this is, but I'll show you it. So basically, all you do to make modulation on the Moog One, you see there's destination here, here, here on the envelopes, and here on the 4 LFOs. Push the button, and now Moog One is listening for what control I want to modulate, and what I have to do to tell it is just touch the dial. So I'm going to touch the pan control, and you see that when I do it, it instantly goes, you want to modulate LFO4 to the pan control, and the control itself becomes the way that I modulate that effect. So, if you're wearing headphones, by the way, which you should be wearing headphones, listen. So nice. Then you hit done, and now that's made. You can then get a bird's eye view of all of your modulations by pushing the mod button, and like every modulation you have made is saved. And this is just the most badass thing, is that you can save presets, obviously, but you can also save modulation sets. So if you're like, I love LFO4 being assigned to pan, plus I like Aftertouch doing this, I like this doing this, I like the mod wheel to do that, you can save them as like mod presets.
Yeah, for me, I think assigning all the controllers to where I expect them to be is a pretty obvious one.
Totally, exactly. Meaning that if you were like doing a sound and you're like, I want that control that I had, you know, in this other sound that I designed, I want that exact thing to be in this preset, you don't have to do it all again, you can just load it into your presets. Cool. But by seeing stuff in the mod matrix like this, it's really sweet. You can fine tune things. So like, for example, like this LFO4 that is controlling our panning for us, you can see that we applied 56.16% of modulation, that well-known amount of modulation.
Yeah.
It's always just exactly, it's not 56.17, mate, like 16. But you can always go back and edit it in this really simple way of just literally. So I can go back and fine tune it, and I can hold shift and absolutely fine-tune those controls. So I can be like, I got it almost right, I actually prefer it a slightly different way. You can refine it. And then the other thing is you can just set up modulations. Like, for example, I can come and say that I want, like, you know, mod wheel to do something, but there's a much easier way, which is here in expression assign. So the square destinations, these little destinations are like mod wheel, the pad X and Y, the keyboard's like pitch, depending on how high, velocity, aftertouch, and the expression input. So let's do aftertouch. And then what I'll do is I'll go aftertouch to the filter. So I'm like playing with it to find the range that I like. Let's do that. Or if I want the mod wheel to control like the filter as well, I'll go mod wheel 100% to the filter, knock this down. So now these two controls, the mod wheel and the aftertouch control, control the filter for me. And if I want to undo that, I can just come in here and go, not sure about that mod wheel thing, delete it. So in terms of like modulating modulators, that's a really fun one where you can have like an LFO controlling an LFO. So that's to get kind of weird and modular. So let's get LFO 3 to control the filter. And then let's get LFO 2 to control LFO 3.
That got really weird really fast.
Didn't it? Yeah. That tends to be the case.
Yeah.
And if you go into the LFOs, by the way, there's some really like awesome extra stuff. Let me just delete that like mod so that it's just
normal. So
we like return to some. And then did we also have LFO 4? I'll take that off. Okay, so I've like deleted all our modulation and kind of taken us back to a sort of somewhat more sensible standpoint. But there's some amazing stuff in like the LFOs, like for example, obviously range, like the LFOs can go super fast. I'll get this onto the filter just so we...
Yeah. Which one are we on?
So just LFO 3 in this case. Range. So I think they go like well into audio range.
$1K, good God.
So if I just go like this, I'll put it into low pass, take this off. Okay, so for like audio rate modulation, what I'll do is I've just now got the ladder, just the filter itself, self-oscillating. And let's get that LFO 3. Oh yeah, mate. And I'll go KB full to ladder as well. Hang on a sec. Oh, actually, yeah, that's hit done. And then we'll go keyboard to the ladder in full. And then you could go keyboard to LFO 3 full as well. So the keyboard is now tracking the filter and the LFO, which tracks the filter. Well, play. Whew.
I've never heard something analog sound so digital.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Way. It's so
like,
cool.
Yeah, that's sort of FME. There's some really wicked, like FM, sort of like literally DX7 style stuff done with analog that I've heard this make.
Put absolutely buckets of reverb on it and you're done.
Let's try that, shall we? So,
you can never have too much reverb.
you can never have too much eventide reverb, certainly.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
you got black hole stuff in there as well.
Actually, I should do that. Go to effects type, black hole, and I'll load the default, and then... So... It's pretty weird. So we took it to a strange place, Ben. I think come back to normality. Good.
Quite a shock.
I want to go to those places. Like,
one thing I actually really like about the whole, like, I don't really want to call it a mod matrix because it's so much friendlier. But having that list there, if you find a patch that's absolutely nuts, you can just go look down the list and go, oh, that's how
why
on
it's
earth
nuts.
it's making that noise.
yeah. To like deconstruct other people's patches is like not a pain.
So obviously the Moog One is the ideal synth to learn how to produce synthesizer sounds on.
This is absolutely the first synth that you should buy, like categorically.
The first and only synth anyone
I mean, it
needs.
is like a joke, but that is a somewhat like an irony that I would genuinely say that this is a lot easier to use than a lot of synths that cost obviously a fraction of its price, but such is life.
Really,
but,
really beginner friendly.
Yeah, genuinely. So, by the way, we never even played with the sort of kind of modulation of the waveform, like waveform mangling options.
Oh, it's disaster piece already.
So you've got pitch mod for a bit of like. And let's have a little bit of LFO 3 animating the filter just to like move it a little bit for us. And then I do want some reverb on this as well, so by golly, I'm going to have it. Hall, I think, is genuinely my favourite of the algorithms. It always just gives you just like a satisfying, like, even. So then we've got like different modulations, pitch. And then mod EG amount means that it's going to apply the envelopes. I should know which envelope it is. It's this one, the modulation envelope.
Oh, you've hurt it.
That's quite nuts. And then if we blend in oscillator 3, and then you could do like frequency modulation, which is like FM, 3 to 1. You also have sync, which is like locking the phase of the oscillators against each other. That's quite cool. So anything good? That's quite nuts. So I've got like this oscillator 3 going to give a kind of harmony. And then like you try some FM, like frequency modulating, you can get lots of clangorous stuff, but but that's like one modulating 3 creates a sort of weird like
Unexpected.
Yeah, that I did not expect to sound like that. And of course we can modulate the that control. And then LFO 2 to modulate the filter. then let's get some of the inbuilt effects. Maybe the BBD or tape delay. Flutter. Taste.
I can listen to that forever.
Yeah.
That's damn cool.
So that's that's only scratching part of the surface of the thing. We haven't talked about the sequences and modulating, layering. Imagine all this power. This is kind of all just stuff that we're just playing around with in one voice, and it's as we've been playing around in this video, I think hopefully it comes across where you're like, I could do that, and you get a little sweet spot. And one of the features I mentioned to Jack, which I should mention right here, is this snapshot thing, where if you push snapshot, it's going to save the state of the synth at that point. So when we're doing what we've been doing today, like you're kind of messing around. I was playing with the FM control, and there was a sweet spot where it was kind of creating a new interval that was sounding like quite harmonic, and then sometimes it would be inharmonic. And you could, whenever you get a good state, you can hit snapshot, and it saves a preset within a preset. So if you push shift and snapshot, it would take you to the snapshots that you've saved as part of your ensemble, so that you've got this idea of, I can always go back to where I was at one point. If you're about to do something that would break the sound, you can save a snapshot and come back.
Are they sort of time-stamped or
They
something?
absolutely, exactly right. And you'll find some of the presets that are built into the machine have got snapshots saved in. So you could be like, oh, look, here's like some alternative points that the sound was at where it's being designed. And if you've gone down a fork, you can always like come back to the root of the fork and like go off in a different direction for that sound.
Do you grab a snapshot and then actually that's totally in the wrong direction, but I like it, let's save it as a different preset?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
You can super easily save, and saving presets is very straightforward. Another really super baller feature of this thing is there's a USB port in the back, and you can connect just a QWERTY keyboard to it. And when you type into the preset, it just so like my presets that I've made for this are like just typed in with a QWERTY keyboard. So it's like so friendly, because then you can also be like, I want like notes, and maybe trying to find something that has notes. This one doesn't. So for example, here's stereo lead bath. And you can see there are notes, and if I go up here, like really interesting stereo lead sound using 3 synths for fun, try turning on each of the sequences and playing along. Aftertouch does vibrato, and the XY does a pseudo-vector filtering trick. Oh, this was the one we were playing with at the start.
Oh, yeah.
What do we do with the...
One thing I've really liked talking to people from Moog and you about this thing, you just go, can it? Yes. What if you want to? Yes. Can you?
Can you? Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Can you? Yes.
It's great.
So this is the sequencer. Weird.
I can play along one of the different synths, maybe.
Oh, that's true. Swell and hat. Oh, that's nice. I just like anything that sounds vaguely like Kraftwerk-y, I'm like,
yeah.
Sold.
I'd ever remember to eat if I had one of these anywhere near me. I just keep going.
Yes, mate. Yeah.
Awesome.
I had lunch before we started this video, which
Just
was an
in case.
essential component to doing it. So thanks for letting me show that to you. I mean, it's fun. And
thank you.
And
It's
no worries. This obviously is not. We've not even. I don't think we've begun to do justice to this. And
I'm not sure it's actually possible.
I don't think it is humanly
honest.
possible. It's like, I think the best thing is just try the sounds. I mean, you're going to have one of these in the store eventually,
Yeah, and that's going to be the most glorious day when that happens. Once we figured out how to put it in the store.
Just literally physically can't fit it in.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Just get all of the pianos,
sound.
just get rid of them.
This has piano sounds. Like, why do you need a Steinway when you've got one of these?
Digital anyway.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, so thanks so much for coming around. Obviously, it's been a bit of a wait. We've been waiting with bated breath to kind of see probably one of the most exciting releases for a good long while. So absolute pleasure every time. Hopefully,
Thanks,
see you again soon. With,
I hope so.
not sure what, but it's going to be exciting whenever it is. Cheers for watching. See you later.